Hello, it is week 8. We are halfway through our fall 2018 semester, and we're nearing the end of our CAD portion. You can see that this week we have something completely new. We're going to be making assemblies. So this week we're going to have a practice part, but you're not going to be able, or you're not going to be creating the actual part. You're going to be given parts, and you're going to be putting them together into an assembly. So here's our final part. We have this fixed handle here, and we have this rotatable blade. You can see it's rotating. And you can find the parts that make this, all 4 of them, up on Blackboard in a zipped folder. So, as always, I'm going to go ahead and start this assembly from scratch and build it along with you guys. So, File New, and then for the first time, we're going to go ahead and choose Assembly. Like I said, we're not creating the parts. They'll be provided, so these 4 parts are up on Blackboard, and that's the first thing that SolidWorks is going to ask. When you start an assembly, it's going to ask what parts are going to go into this assembly. So it's going to be all 4 of these. So I'm going to go ahead and select them and go ahead and choose open. And then it's going to start placing the parts into space. Their location and orientation doesn't really matter right now, as we're going to go ahead and fix everything in a bit. But we can start to look around and get an idea of where everything is. So if we look at our part, we can see that our handle is supposed to be fixed. I ended up adding this part in first, and SolidWorks fixed it. So I'm just going to go ahead and right-click it and float, and then right-click the handle and fix it. So now everything is free to move around in space, except for this handle, which is fixed in place. So the only real description I have here is that this blade wheel is going to be centered in between these faces. And just so you guys know, this is a detail view that we'll get to next week, but this circle right here is detail C, and this is D. It's just kind of a magnified view with a bigger scale, so it kind of magnifies the area of interest in our part. But we'll get to that next week. Right now, we're just going to be focused on assemblies. So I'm going to start putting this together using some basic mates, and then when we get here, we'll need to go to an advanced mate. So first thing first, I'm going to go ahead and add some mates. I'm going to start here, and like they discussed in the Linda videos, SolidWorks is very good at choosing the correct mate type based on the entity selected. So if I do that, you can see it adds the coincident mate just like we think. Then I'm going to go ahead and add this and cap off this right here. And of course it shows the perfect mate, and we're good. Next thing we're going to do is add this blade to go around this kind of axle right here, and I think it would be the concentric mate, but I'm just going to select the cylindrical face there, and SolidWorks will automatically choose the concentric mate. So everything's looking pretty good. It's a pretty simple week so far. This looks pretty good, but we can see we're fixed, we're mated in the sense that these circles share the same center point, but this is still free to move around, and that's clearly not right. So if we go here, we can see that we should make a mate so that ensures this blade is centered between these 2 faces. And we've got a mate just for that, but it's going to be one of the advanced mates. So we can see we want this to be perfectly centered. We can kind of place it there, but we want to ensure it's actually centered. So we can go to our mates. It's going to be under advanced, and we can choose width. And then it's going to ask us what 2 faces it should be centered between. So that's going to be that face and that face. And then it's going to ask us the tab selection, which is going to be what face is going to be centered between those 2 faces. It's going to be that one and that one. And then you can see its default constraint is centered, which is exactly what we want. Go ahead and select it. And then we can go ahead and look at our top view and see that we are centered. And if we don't believe that, we can go ahead and do a little sanity check and measure from here to here. 0.56, and then from here to here. From here to here, 0.56. So this is perfectly centered in between these 2 faces. So that's really all we got this week. We can see that this part is free to rotate, but this is fixed. So that's how the quiz is going to go. We're going to give you the parts. You're going to have to toss them into an assembly, and it's going to have to act like you would expect it to. This is what you'd expect. You'd hold this, and then this is free to rotate to kind of cut through your part. And that's all we really have over here. We don't have any maths or anything because you're not creating the part, you're creating the assembly. So that's all we got for you this week. Thanks, guys.